Hey folks, Colin here from Something's Recording, and today I'm going to show you one trick to get more low end from your overheads. We're going to be talking about getting low end without a kick mic today, but before we dive in, if you're ready to learn what it takes to get a great snare recording, then I have just the thing for you. It is my essential guide to recording snare drum. It is a simple PDF that will walk you through everything you need from mic choice to mic position to input gain to get a polished and professional sounding snare recording without any more guesswork, without any more hassle. It is completely free and you can download it below using the link in the video description. Now let's jump in and take a look at these overheads here. This is an issue you might run into if you have minimal mics on your drum kit. Some people do it with Recorder Man style where they have just one mic over the front end of the kit and one mic over the back end of the kit. They're usually measured from the kick and snare just to make sure those two are in phase. Sometimes they put a mic on the kick, sometimes they put a mic on the snare, sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's just the two overheads. A lot of people resort to one mic now over the shoulder and the back of the kit. Gives you just a picture of the kit. If you're using any of these techniques, minimal mics on the kit, you're going to need something to get a little bit more low end out of your overhead mics or your room mic to make sure you can feel that kick drum in your mix. Let me play you what I ended up with, and then let me play you the original overhead sound. You can see there's quite a few overheads here. There was a punchy dub. We're going to be looking at these main two here. I duplicated it to get a little bit more low end. We'll talk about that in a second. Take a listen to our drum sound as it stands in the mix here. You can hear it's pretty roomy, right? Pretty minimal here, pretty indie sounding drum kit. That's the vibe we're going for here, but we needed a little bit more low end out of it. That's why I have these overhead duplicates. So let me solo up the original overhead mic here. I'm going to flip it into mono because I have it panned here. And let me take off the processing that we have. Here's our original overhead as we got it here. You can hear there's not a lot of low end to begin with there. Did a little bit of processing on the overhead mic, so take a listen when we throw in our overhead processing. There's a little bump down here to emphasize that kick drum. This is where I started, pulled out the mid-range like I usually do on overheads, made sure the top end wasn't so crazy on some of the cymbals, and boosted a little bit of that low end to see if I could get that kick drum up a little bit further. So things are a little bit evener, or a little bit more even, excuse me, in the overhead mics now. But I do have snare mics. So when I pull in the snare mic, we're going to lose all that balance, all that evenness we just put into our overheads, right? Because we're going to have a snare mic, we have a spot mic on our snare, but no spot mic on our kick. So we could pull up our overheads a whole bunch, or we could use our snare top mic to supplement it, but I want to use the spot mic to get the attack on the snare drum. So I need something to bring a little bit more low end to the party. So what I did was I added this on the end of it here and got rid of all the low end on this overhead here. Then I duplicated it, called it overheads low, kept the same processing on the beginning, so there's that same EQ we talked about earlier, and then isolated just the low end here. So everything below about 140 is what we're listening to on this mic here. Take a listen to what this mic sounds like. So same overhead, same track, just duplicated, and then we're wiping off all the top end. So now we have an overhead for our low end, and we have an overhead for our high end. This gives us the opportunity to have that good balance we created, get our snare drum working, and then pull in our overhead low to balance out our snare drum and our overhead, so our top end sound, with some low end with a little bit of that kick drum. We don't have the greatest punch from this kick drum, and we could delve into the area compressing it to get some punch out of it. I don't want to over process this. Like I said, indie track here, indie vibe we're going for. So we want to keep it kind of bare bones, but I wanted a little bit more low end. So we're isolating that, and then I do have a little bit more of a boost here, about 2 dB. Take a listen to what this boost is doing. Giving a little bit more beef to essentially our kick drum down there. Let's put this in with our overhead high now. So you can see our balance has changed now. I've pulled our overhead low up to a little bit over 0 here, while our overhead high is around -5. Take a listen to the two together. Now we have some low end beef, so let's throw our snare drum in now and see where we ended up. Without it in, without this filter here on our overhead high, wiping out that low end, it's a little bit unbalanced, it's a little bit ringy, it's a little bit messy sounding. Putting our overhead low in, so isolating the low end on our overhead mic, gives us a little bit more control, allows us to balance it a little bit better, and we can focus the low end. So you can see our low pass filter here is sitting at about 140, but our high pass is up at 182. So there's a little bit in this area between 140 and 180 that we're wiping out and reducing with our filters. That's a little bit of that kind of lower end mud that we don't need. That's some of that ringingness that we're getting rid of. We're focusing the low end energy only at the heart of that kick drum sound in the overheads. Then we're bringing that back in. So one more time here. Let's start. We'll do just our overheads here. So just our treated overheads. Then we'll kick our snare drum in. Then we'll pull our overheads low, so our kick drum essentially back in. You can hear it cleans up the low end on our snare drum as well. When we kick that filter in on our overhead high and throw our overhead low end, it gives us a good low end control for that kick drum element because we've focused our energy there, and it gives us more control over the low end, that low beef on our snare drum. I hope that was helpful for you. Like I said at the beginning of the video, if you're ready to level up your snare recordings, then I have just the tool for you, and it is completely free. It is my essential guide to recording snare drum, and you can download it below to start creating more professional recordings in less time. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.